nervous because I'm here now.
Hey guys, welcome into another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm James Haskell here with my co-host Glenn Martin. And Glenn, we got a lot of meat on the bone today. We are going to talk about everything that has transpired in the past few days, try and summarize it, sum it up, and talk about the main headlines, right? The things that get us most excited.
Yeah.
So we got like 13 to 15 really exciting things to talk to you guys about, fill you in on, and give us our opinion on. So I'm going to pass the baton over to my co-host Glenn, and he can kick us off.
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 days of padded camp practice are now in the books, and as we know, that's this is what they've been waiting on. This is their only time to prepare for the regular season with preseason being canceled. So these padded practices mean more now than they ever have before. So let's get into some of these notes. The first thing that jumped out to me, and I remember Monday morning turning on the stream that they had on, which was really cool that the Ravens gave us some access with the fans not being able to attend. And the first thing I noticed was the size of DJ Fluker and how much bigger he looks than his contemporary. I mean, you look at everyone competing for the interior spot, whether it be guard or center, and he dwarfs them. He is gigantic, and he's not – and as he said in his press conference today, this is not a big man who's a bunch of fat. I mean, he took his BMI down from 44% to 22%, and while he only said he may have only lost 10 pounds, it's the weight shift, from being not good weight to being muscle and being some good weight. So I'm excited to see what this guy's going to do this season. Yeah,
man. It sounds like he's eating less cookies and more something, beans.
Protein.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, I agree with you. To be able to do that and shift your body is exciting news for him, because I think it'll help as far as like joint pain, injury, stuff like that. And then, his explosion strength and all those things, obviously aren't compromised because he only lost 10 pounds while halving his BMI. But the other thing that I'm going to steal something that you're really excited about, but I'm going to steal it from you here. Dobbins, J.K. Dobbins apparently has looked absolutely explosive, springy, his lateral movement, powerful, smooth, all of the great words you want to hear about a running back, a true first-round talent that we got in the second round. But he's got an edge to him. Apparently, he doesn't mind dusting it up with the defense. He got a little bit of an exchange with Deshaun Elliott, and then he got into an exchange with the undrafted safety Nigel Warrior, which is an awesome name, by the way. But, I guess Coach Harbs had to run in there and play hall monitor and separate those two.
Yeah.
So that's exciting, man. I like not intimidated. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's out there to prove something. And I tell you what, just walking. You ever met one of those guys just walking? Looks like he's got springs in his shoes.
Oh yeah.
Jump through the gym at any time. He just looks like that. I mean, man, I've never seen somebody with so much quick twitchiness to him, just walking normal. You got me excited.
Yeah, you can see what type of athlete this guy is. It's incredible. And it's like you said, I love the dust-ups with the DB. I love the fact that he's not scared as a rookie. This is only, first few days of padded practice, and he's playing with the big boys. But he's not scared. I mean, this is a guy who came from Ohio State. This guy has played at big program after big program his whole life. So I love the fact that the lights aren't too bright, and he's ready to go in there and prove that he belongs already. Not that he's a year away, that he belongs as a rookie. And I can't wait for him to take over being the primary ball carrier sometime in the early part of the season.
Now, let me ask you a question about that, though.
Yeah.
What do you think caused the dust up? In my mind, this is what I envision. I'm pretty sure it was a DB's pride that got a little hurt. Yeah. He might have gotten a little too physical with the DBs. They might have tried to make a business decision, and he wasn't going around them. I think in both scenarios, he probably got the better of them, right? Like it was hurt pride, maybe. That's the way I envision it.
Well, it's either hurt pride, or I know a lot of veterans say that sometimes these rookies come into practice and they want to run through a wall in practice, and they may not understand fully that sometimes you got to take care of your other teammate on the other side of the ball too, and realize that this isn't game day. This isn't I think we've seen that in the past. I remember watching Hard Knocks with the safety that the Raiders drafted in the first round. I believe his last name is Abrams. Hard hitting beast of it, and he had to be toned down a little bit because he was out there laying the wood. So
didn't he dent his face mask or something?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so look, it comes to a point where, you want to play, you want kind of simulated live reps as much as you can, but at some point you got to take care of your teammates, and I guarantee he had to be reminded of that a couple times. Now, with Nigel Warrior, it's a little different because they're both rookies, but Deshaun's been around for a while, and maybe he took offense to, you're right, maybe him trying to run over.
Well, Deshaun, move out of the way. Get with it or get off the field.
Well, look, I see it from both ends. Because you certainly don't want guys getting hurt in the second or third day of padded practice.
True that.
But moving on to the other side of the ball, the two linebackers that the Baltimore Ravens brought in this year in the first and third rounds, I believe, have looked like they're fitting the part. Queen has looked fast, explosive. He's playing with the good smarts. The coach has mentioned that he looked a lot better from day 1 to day 2, which is a good sign because he's learning, he's picking things up. And Harrison Harbaugh said it's amazing the size of this guy and yet the fluidity that he maintains despite that size. So excited to hear that from those two. You never really know what you get, what you're going to get until they have to go up against other, opposing offenses, but excited to hear the early reports out of camp for these two.
I can't wait to get a shirt that says blueberry marmalade and peanut butter crunch, dude. I cannot wait. Yeah, I'm excited to see those guys. And the other just additional note to that is I saw Patrick McQueen essentially had no problem stepping in right away. And like you mentioned before the show, the expectations seem to be that at least starting out, we don't know how long this will last, but it'll be Fort and Queen out there. And they said he had no problem hopping in there, running with the ones, keeping up to speed, which is what we want, not thinking too much and playing fluid. So that's really exciting. But
before you, I'm gonna have to ask you to stop watching Cars because you called him McQueen.
Oh,
it's not Lightning McQueen. He's Patrick Queen.
He's as fast as Lightning McQueen.
There you go.
Jeez, a whiz, man. So I got nephews that are that age. Nieces
I understand. I get it. I got a 6-year-old. I get it.
Yeah. So all right. So back to the offense side of the ball, and of course, as Matthew Judon called it, let's not get it twisted. We know who the franchise guy is here, Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson, incredibly. I don't know how you do this, but he's looked better than last year. As reports have said, he's thrown 0 interceptions so far. Looks like he's made a real commitment to accuracy. In general, and then accuracy with his deep ball. And I think on top of that, a commitment to throwing the deep ball as far as making sure that the defense stays honest and has to count for that part of his game as well. I'll tell you what I've noticed. I don't have as much inside access as the other folks. I mean, we got some people on the inside that give us some information. We got some friends. We know some people. But from what I've seen in my own eyes, I love the fluidity. Lamar's always been super fluid, but he seems so sure of himself. You've said this before. He's the most confident guy, but he's not cocky. He's just extremely confident in his abilities. I love it. I mean, they said that he was disputing a touchdown with Coach Urban because, you can't touch him. He broke from the pocket, and no one touched him.
Crazy.
How insane is that? So, but I want to ask you something about Lamar. He was caught on the mic, I'm sure you heard it as well, saying, I'm going to break a lot of long ones this year.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Well, I think that there was quite a few plays that we saw last season where either the turf monster got him and he tripped, or for whatever reason he lost his balance and went down when it looked to be like he had more yards in front of him. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure he looks at all those situations and goes, man, if I could have just stayed on my feet, that's X amount more yards, and that's however many more touchdowns I could have gotten. But, I mean, he was pretty darn good last year. I mean, as Ken McCusick pointed out when we had him on from Film Study Baltimore, that even if you added his negative yards from sacks and you put that to his scrambles on pass plays, he averaged 5 yards a carry, and that's including his sacks.
Scrambles.
Yeah, that's not run plays. That's just off script. That includes his sacks. He averaged 5 a carry. I mean, that's just insane. Absolutely insane. He's the human cheat code, and I love hearing from Hollywood and others that the MVP, the cover of Madden, all the accolades have only made him work harder and made him hungrier to win a championship. I mean, as I've said many times on here, he's the most humble superstar I've ever seen. And yeah, just happy to know that he's going to be in Baltimore for a long, long time.
Well, you brought up Hollywood. Why don't you give us some news and notes on your boy?
Yeah, so everyone's pumped to see Hollywood. He put on the weight. He's added some speed from last year, considering he's healthy and that foot is back to normal. And man, we got a clip of it. We got a quick glimpse of it when he took on obviously the very talented Marlon Humphrey, Pro Bowler from last year, MVP of our defense from last year, and he burnt him. And the throw caused him to slow down just a hair, and he still had enough separation to make that catch. So it could have looked even worse had the throw hit him perfectly in stride. Not to say it was bad, but it didn't necessarily hit him perfectly in stride. But I think people forget that Marlon was a track star back in his younger days. So to burn Marlon means you got wheels, and certainly Marquise has those.
Yeah, the impressive thing to me was that it wasn't just a simple go route. Right? Like he had the little hezzy in it, and then he took off again. I mean, the sudden twitch movements of his game, aside from his top end speed, that's just incredible to me. You don't get that combination very often, right? Like Deshaun Jackson has the top end speed, but he's not necessarily known for beating you in a small space.
Well, young Deshaun was.
That's
Remember them
true.
punt return days? Woo!
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But just having that combination is just rare.
No, I think it's the difference of like him, like a Deshaun Jackson young, and versus like a Torrey Smith. Where Torrey Smith certainly had that second gear. I think we all remember. Once that ball was in the air, he found an additional gear that caused that late separation where they're even, but the last 10 feet that ball travels, he gains that extra yard or two.
Or he gets a PI, one of the two.
Hey, we'll take either one. It counts some yards. But the thing, like you mentioned, that Torrey didn't have was that make you miss, that change of direction, that acceleration. He wasn't good with the ball in his hands. But
right.
But Hollywood has both. I mean, we saw that extra gear when the ball was in the air. Just certain players have that when they see the ball, they just run faster. I mean, it just doesn't make – it's weird. It's like when they say some people, run their fastest when they're being chased. Well, I think some people run their fastest when they're running down a ball.
Yeah.
But he also brings that make you miss in a hallway that I think fans are most excited about.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, before we move off of thrown footballs, we talked about Lamar, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that RG3 apparently from Lamar's mouth and Coach Harbaugh is apparently having his best camp as a Raven. I know that's not like front page news, but I do think it's important because in camp we've made moves for draft picks for the future. And if an injury occurs, if somebody goes down, look, RG3 is, I'm sure, appealing enough to where somebody would kick the tires on it, especially based on the fact that he's been healthy. He's been getting healthier, seemingly, right? Mm-hmm. Getting his body in shape and has some good tape out there. So I think that's at least worth mentioning. Who knows? We could see a move being made. I'm not predicting that, but you just never know. I think it's definitely something worth mentioning.
Well, I think RG3 has consistently thrown the prettiest ball on the team. The reason I say I think it's very, very unlikely he would get moved is for a couple of reasons. I think obviously the Ravens are in win now mode and would value having a guy in case Lamar was to forced to miss a couple games that they know could go in there and get a win. But more than that, typically you see a team trade their backup quarterback if maybe they're like rebuilding. They just drafted a rookie, but they have a veteran in-house, and then they see in camp that rookie is taken off to the point where that veteran is no longer necessary, and they're not on the precipice of winning. Right. So it would stunt maybe his development by having that veteran around. So they move on from the veteran, and they get draft pick. But usually there has to be a team out there that wants – like I'm trying to think of a team that would want the services of RG3, and I just can't think of a team that would want him more than we want him, more than we need him here in Baltimore. So I just don't see him leaving because his biggest fit and his most important role is right here in Baltimore. And I don't see a better role for him out there.
So you don't think if somebody calls and said, we'll have a fifth, just like they did with Vedvik, we'll give you a fifth, we let him go?
I don't know about that, but here's my thing. I'm not
saying he would chase a fifth, right? Like, I don't know if we would get that.
Right. Well, I think that Vedvik is kind of unique in the sense that he looked at that point like a guy that can make some kicks. And there's a shortage of NFL quality kickers out there. We saw it today. The Browns brought in Nick Folk. I mean, they brought in a bunch of guys to try and kick. It's a little different with a quarterback in a sense that, he's going to have to lead your team. I just don't see what team, like I can't see a young team wanting to add him because why? And I don't see he's already on a championship level. Like that'd be the other team would be a championship level team that is got nothing after its starter and they want a quality. But that's what we got. He's already at home in my opinion. Right. But it would be certainly interesting if for some reason some team threw a 5th rounder at the Ravens to see what they would choose. Yeah. But I want to move on to another guy. We talk about Hollywood's weight gain and the impressiveness of him putting on all that muscle. And also maybe looked a little faster or has looked faster with that extra muscle on top of it. But I want to talk about another guy on the other side of the ball who's lost some weight in hopes to get faster, and that's Jimmy Smith, a guy that certainly has never been anything but lean in his career. He's a very physically gifted guy, a guy that's got, he's just always looked like a chiseled, prototype type looking cornerback. I mean, he's tall, he's long, he's muscular. But he wanted to lose some weight to gain some extra foot quickness going into, later part in his career. Coach said he dropped 12 pounds. He went down from 220 to down to 208. And he's looked faster. He's looked more explosive. He looked more quick twitch. So, Jimmy, are you happy? Are you happy to hear that another Jimmy has lost a couple pounds?
That's right. We're losing some LBs together, baby.
That's right.
But no, I'm excited about that more than anything because I mentioned this with Fluker. I think that it's important for, the inflammation in the joints, the joint pain, especially with Jimmy having an injury history. And apparently it doesn't make him any less aggressive because apparently he laid the wood on Nick Boyle today. So he's still – and the thing is that Jimmy Smith walking around is probably in the top 5% of size when it comes to corners. I think it's fair to say. Like he's a big dude, just naturally, just walking around. And so – getting lean and getting quick, working on that explosion, I think is awesome. Working on that flexibility and things like that. It's great news. I think it's great news for us. Yeah. So I got a question for you though.
All right. Let me have.
All right. So I'm gonna double this up here and then ask you a question. James Prochet apparently made a 40-yard diving catch today in practice. We saw the picture. It looked impressive. Duvernay has gotten behind the DBs in a number of drills throughout practice. Who do you think I'm excited about both. I'm sure you are as well. Mm-hmm. Who do you think will garner Lamar's trust early on to make an early impact? Neither of them, or do you have your eye on one of them?
Wow. I mean, I think the biggest thing for a receiver to gain the trust of the quarterback is to catch the ball. And right now, those two are neck and neck. I haven't heard either one they have dropped a ball. As a matter of fact, I remember Coach talking today. He's hardly seen any balls hit the ground for any scenario. No fumbles, no drop balls, no tip. I mean, nothing. So, yeah, I think it's too early to make those types of predictions right now. But it's good to see, man. I mean, it's good to see a youth movement. I believe I was reading today that our oldest receiver is 27-year-old Willie Snead. I mean, how cool is that? That it's nothing but youth in a team that's so traditionally looked to older free agent veterans to come, seal it up. So
true, dude.
It's just awesome to see a bunch of young guys excited to go out there, prove themselves, and the fact that they're beating the best secondary in the league, in practice is awesome because you asked me before the show, does that make me worried at all about the corner? Absolutely not. I mean, we know what the corners are going to do. There's tape. There's record on Humphrey. There's tape and record on Peters, on Smith. We know what those guys are going to bring. So the fact that these guys are beating them in practice, I love it because I want them. They need the confidence. Peters doesn't need any confidence from practice.
Right.
You know what I mean? But these young guys do. I mean, from your days of being an athlete, how much confidence can make a difference in how someone plays. I mean, it's literally night and day just by how they feel about themselves. So I love that they're gaining confidence. I want to see them keep beating them. And I love seeing that they have no picks yet because it should make the defense hungrier and it should make them better and push them to be better. So I'm happy, man.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. For some reason, I feel like Prochet is going to step out early, and I'm not saying that Duvernay is not going to, make an impact throughout the season, but his catching, his catching ability, his body adjustability, if you will, right? The way he can contort his body and catch these balls midair and his adjustment and things like that. Because the thing is, if it's not a perfect ball, that doesn't mean he's not coming down with it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see that. But, I want to talk about something else real quick. Because another receiver that you were really excited about last year in camp, that look, a lot of our commenters think that we are kind of anti-Boykin, and that's not the case at all, but he was a victim of his own success at the beginning because in camp last year he looked so good. It looked so promising. And then as the season went on, yes, ladies and gentlemen, he was a great blocker. Yeah. But he only caught, 13 balls?
13 balls, full
13
season.
balls and 3 touchdowns, right?
Yep.
So we were expecting more, but apparently he's been hearing the news. He's been seeing the stuff on social media about Dez, about us needing a big body guy, and apparently stepping it up in practice. So 2 questions for you, Glenn, because you already know how I feel about Dez. I can't wait to throw up the X in Baltimore. And I can't believe I'm saying this, man. It's so not normal, but for some reason I just feel like Dez is in a good spot. We can take advantage of that. But What do you see as far as the possibility? What do you think the outcome will be of the workout, first of all? And, now that you've had some time to simmer on the thought of Dez working out for us tomorrow, and if he comes on, what do you see happening to Boykin? How do you see that impacting him?
Yeah, so it's hard for me to predict what I think Dez will do for the workout, like if he'll show the coaches what they need to see. I don't have that keen of an eye from looking at one clip on his Instagram or on his Twitter. But I'll say this, the fact that they even brought him in should make Boykin a little bit nervous, because they wouldn't be bringing Dez in if Boykin was leaping over DBs and making catch after catch. And they certainly wouldn't be doing it if they thought Boykin was going to be able to carry that over into the regular season, because it's not like we haven't seen this from Boykin before in practice. We've seen countless times last season in practice where he looked like the best player on the field. But when it came down to the game time, when it was time to line up against an opponent, he didn't gain the separation that you need to get open enough. He just didn't. And people can say he had lack of targets. He did. He didn't have a ton of targets. But why don't you think he got more targets than Seth Roberts? Why don't you think he got more targets, than Willie Snead, than Boyle, than, you know what I mean? Name a guy. The reason coaches don't give guys targets is because they don't have faith that they can do anything with those targets, or you know what I mean? So to say he didn't get targets is not a positive for him. That's a negative. So
right.
I think that if Dez is signed, I'm happy, because he must have shown enough in those workouts to make them want to sign him. So that must mean that his body's in shape. That must mean that, he's recovered well from that Achilles injury. But what worries me is that the last time we saw Dez is he had a 53% catch rate and he led the league in drops. And that worries me. Now, people can say maybe he's mature. Maybe you said before the show, it's hard for guys to be anything but who they are. And if who he is a guy who makes spectacular catches but also drops some easy ones, I don't know if I am that thrilled with that guy, because what I loved about our offense last year was the efficiency of it, was the fact that Lamar Jackson led the league in yards per carry, but also led the league in percentage of throws that went for a touchdown at 9%, is the fact that they don't have to throw the ball 35 times for Lamar to have 5 touchdown passes. They just don't, because they're so efficient. Well, a guy who drops a lot of balls isn't efficient. So unless he's made some sort of a breakthrough in that department, I'm nervous. But if they sign him, the coaches know a lot more than me, and they must like what they see. So I'd be happy. Yeah,
and I can tell you what, I really think that if Dez does come on, the big difference is at that point, while he was younger, he was supposed to be the bona fide. He was paid as the bona fide number one, and he wasn't that anymore. So I think that he'll benefit from Hollywood. He'll benefit from Mark Andrews, and then the run game in general. And I think that will take some pressure off him and allow him to just play football, not worry about filling in those shoes of a number one or anything like that. So that's what I'm hoping will happen. But, once again, something else that we talked about before the show, just like you were mentioning, a guy can only be himself, and it looks like Calais Campbell has taken no time to step in there as the vocal leader on the defense. I mean, he's telling people what he wants, where he wants them to be, what he wants to see. But I'll tell you what, the best thing I heard was he walked up to Lamar and he was like, Lamar, dude, you're fast, man. And he was like, look, it was early in my career, but I got Vic. I played against Vic and I've tackled Vic. He was like, dude, I didn't even touch you, man. There was no chance. And in fact, It's funny when you watch the play where he got the closest, he thinks he has Lamar kind of pinned. Literally, I mean, he's standing in bags of cement, right? Lamar just goes around and Calais just chuckles. He's like, dude, nothing I can do.
I'm glad he's on my team.
Yeah, there's literally nothing I can do about this. The coach can't even be mad at you. You did your job, dude. What do you expect him to do? So I'm really excited about Calais and his
leadership, man. I mean, it's just shocking to see, in a good way, to see him already taking such a vocal. I mean, he to me looks like the clear-cut vocal leader on our defense already, and that's impressive, and that points to how he is obviously as a worker, because it's like I love when Boyle said this about Lamar. He's the best player and he's also the most respected player. And that's because of the work he puts in. I think that's what Calais garners that same respect. And that, he might, tell you what he wants to see, but that's not because, he's not talking out of school. He's not telling you to do something he's not willing to do. I mean, this guy works hard. He mastered his craft, and these guys can learn a lot from him. And I just love that he's not wasting any time. He's not tiptoeing around. He knows. Look, I think the sense of urgency we're seeing out of Calais, it's clear. He wants to win a championship, and he's looking around going, man, this is my best shot to do it. I just think he's going to take advantage of this year. I think he's going to beast out this year, and I'm excited, man.
Yeah, empty the tank this year, man. I'll tell you what, you're right.
That's right.
Next
to him, should be next to him. We expected to see him next to him, but we haven't. Past couple days is Jalen Ferguson missing another practice for an undisclosed reason. To me, I'm concerned, and the reason I'm concerned is because Jalen Ferguson looks like the only person opposite Judon that could potentially develop into being, not just a pass rusher, but a run defender that can be counted on and become a 3-down type of player.
Yeah,
and that's what we need, because we don't want to have to send Pernell McPhee out there again to say, to say, look, please, we need you to go set the edge, because we want him available and healthy and all that stuff for pass rush, because that's what, his interior pass rush, and you can bring him off the edge. You can do a number of things with McPhee, but you can't do that if he's exhausted from having to stuff the run on downs 1 and 2. Right. So I'm nervous about him. Man, it's just a shame, because that leap that they're going to make from 1 to 2. This is what we were excited to see what Ferguson had, and we just haven't seen him yet.
And I'll tell you the other thing. I'm not trying to float rumors. I hope, it's weird. I hope that it's not injury related, but I also hope it's something not more serious than an injury, like a family thing or something like that, right? So, but at the same time, you wonder if how nondescript they can be. What if it's COVID and he needs to stay? Are they able to say undisclosed reason and leave it at that? And he needs to stay away until he's through it and then able to test negative 2 or 3 times, whatever the protocol is. Look, I'm not trying to float rumors here. I'm just saying that you have to look at all the possibilities. It could be something like that. But either way, like you said, it's alarming that it's undisclosed. Right? I feel like that we have no idea what it is. But number 2, he needs these reps, because I don't think, just like you said, I don't think any of the other guys have the – McPhee can do it, but can he last is the thing. At that, like you said, at that point in his career, it's like, great. We're asking him to reach for the stars, and he can hardly jump high enough to get tissue paper under his shoes. You know what I mean? So it's like
I get what you're saying, yeah.
So it concerns me. But the other thing I'll say is – and once again, this might not be front page news to like headline Ravens fans, but for all of you that are true Ravens fans, which all of you subscribers and viewers are, the fact that Eli Wolf went off the field with an injury, who's our undrafted rookie tight end out of Georgia, who coach was impressed with. He mentioned him, and then he also mentioned Scarf, but he only mentioned Scarf's blocking, which I thought was funny. He said, I was impressed with Scarf's blocking. Well, thanks, coach. But the concern is that the third tight end spot is still up in the air.
Yeah.
And time is ticking, right?
Mm-hmm.
I realize people are saying that Boyle could make up for production and things like that, but that's not the point. Ken laid it out simply that deception is a big part of our offense.
Yep.
Hayden Hurst filled a need that we currently do not have on the roster.
Yeah, no doubt. And did it well.
Yeah. And so maybe we don't have a world-class athlete that can do what he can, but assimilate some of that, right? That's the hope.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried too. I mean, we talked about this a number of times about the importance of a quality third tight end in this offense, and I don't know if fans are taking it as seriously as probably they should, because I mean the stuff that they didn't just ask Hayden Hurst to be a tight end. They asked him to do so much more. They asked him to, I mean, he asked him to be an H-back a lot of times too. They asked him to be a fullback. It's just the versatility that he brought with his athleticism, his size. I mean, Ken said he had the best hands on the team. He hit the top speed on the team for the year. A lot of people don't realize that Hayden Hurst ran faster than Lamar, ran faster than Hollywood, ran faster than anyone on our team last year.
That's insane.
So it is insane. At 265 pounds, that's ridiculous. So they're going to miss a guy that's that good, that big, that athletic, that versatile, no doubt about it. So when you talk about Eli Wolf, he already had an uphill climb to make this roster, being an undrafted guy, a guy who's known for his athleticism, but not necessarily known for getting in the trenches and getting, rolling his sleeves up. So I think this is a big setback for Wolf, and hopefully what Coach said, he said he didn't think it would be serious, but wasn't obviously committing on that. I hope for his sake that he can get back. But man, if I'm as they call him, Chuck Scarf, man, you got everything breaking your way as far as helping you make this team.
Right.
With Breeland not playing, Wolf now dinged up. If Jarrell Adams is the only one that looks like they can really fight him for the job right now. And Jarrell Adams has been known for his blocking and maybe some sneaky athleticism, and maybe he hasn't gotten an opportunity, so maybe he'll break out. But right now, that third tight end spot is up in the air, and man, we might have to look to Pat Ricard to help fill it.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, and I do think it's a big deal, like you mentioned. Now, we mentioned a myriad of points here. We want to get your guys' opinions on them, get your thoughts. Is there anything about camp thus far that's occurred that we're missing? Anything that you're excited about? Give us your thoughts on the points that we've brought up. And as things continue to break, what we're going to do is keep you guys up to date. Make sure we're giving you as much information as we have, as much inside information that we're able to glean from our awesome connections. And we'll be back soon. So make sure to subscribe, give us a like, and turn those notifications on, and we'll be back.
See you.